The excitement around the announcement of Tekken 8 was astounding. People spent nearly a full decade playing Tekken 7. As good as it is, it gets tiring, and it's rare for a big fighting game franchise to go this long without a new title. So players were clamoring for a sequel. Then, one day, Bandai Namco finally revealed it. The game looked fantastic, the hype is real, the date is saved, the entirety of 2024 is marked in the calendar. Then the previews, demos and closed network betas came around. Everyone obviously had their doubts, concerns and a fair share of criticism. The major points revolved around the visual clarity, the new hit system, and a number of fundamental changes to the balance and mechanics, like the sweeping changes to how the Magic 4 functions. Stuff like that is inevitable. For the past 2 decades, Tekken was not about innovation, it was about refining what's already there, taking the old blueprint and trying to make it even better. We haven't seen changes this drastic since the release of Tekken 4 in 2001. However, the criticism didn't make the enthusiasm fade away. People still wanted to get their hands on the game as soon as possible. Skip forward to release and it seemed like hype was justified. Critics were showering the game with positive reviews and players were loving it. Since then, the game's Steam rating kept going down, the discussions online have been very negative, and there's a lot of straight up dooming about the future of Tekken. How did it come to this, and is the hate really justified? We want to discuss that in today's video. Before we begin, we would appreciate a like or a sub if you end up enjoying the video, or to hear your criticism if you don't. Thank you. It didn't take long for the honeymoon period to end. Bandai Namco sort of forced it to be over themselves when they suddenly added a cash shop and a premium battle pass. It obviously wasn't in the game at launch, but more than that, it was deliberately hidden. People reviewing the game were not informed about it, and they didn't even bother to add some kind of grayed out icon to show that, hey, here's Tekken Shop, it's not available yet, but we're adding it later. What's worse is that, as many other cash shops, they force you to use the fake funny money. We've talked about this in another video, but this practice is almost strictly predatory because it does several bad things. It distances you from the real price of items you buy. 400 Tekken coins does not immediately make you consider the item's value the same way $4 would. And notice how the price of items never matches the price of coin packages. This is done to encourage you to buy more expensive options with a better conversion rate, and to ensure that no matter what you buy, you have some leftover coins. Nobody likes having their money wasted, so it tends to manipulate people into spending more and more, getting them into a loop of buying more coins. When people buy a fighting game for $70, this is not what they want to see. You know what else they don't want to see? An untextured sphere as a part of the premium battle pass. Tekken 8 in general has a running problem with its cosmetics. Some of them appear entirely new, but the majority of them are items that used to be free in Tekken 7 or even Tag Tournament 2. Those items simply get a few touch-ups before being sold to you for what is essentially $5. The game already got a reputation for being greedy, yet in the middle of all this they thought it would be a good idea to bombard the audience with big brand collaborations. Sneakers from Nike, Angel Clover Watch, Gentle Monster glasses. Screw G-Corp, we represent Chipotle, and we're dropping on Pachinki. Surprisingly enough, what broke the camel's back wasn't any of this, but rather the release of Heihachi. Turns out paying for the Ultimate Edition, or a pass that should cover the Year 1 content, is not enough to get Heihachi stage. You'll have to buy that one separately. The community got so outraged about this that Harada had to issue an apology, which he was possibly forced to delete. All of those things didn't help to improve Tekken's reputation, but it wasn't enough to tank it either. After all, most of it is down to cosmetics and monetization, which the core audience tends to overlook regardless. However, all of those existing issues were exacerbated by people growing increasingly frustrated about the state of gameplay and balance. Every new fighting game in this generation has its own controversial mechanic. Cameos in MK1, dash attacks in Granblue, Green Slime in Street Fighter 6, and of course Heat in Tekken 8. Unlike with the others though, you won't find too many people defending Heat. Even though the mechanic is not fundamentally terrible, the current implementation of it kind of is. Now during every single round, people have a fairly low-risk option that doesn't require much skill to use, yet carries significant benefits of either expanding combos and corner carry, or making your offense much scarier. Even with the game's stated goal of encouraging aggression, Heat seems to go too far, since it also shaves some of the Tekken's nuance in the process, especially when you get great Heat moves on already oppressive characters. I bet you're already sick of seeing this guy in every single top 8, including Mirror Grand Finals. Just shows you how quickly a character can go from fan favorite to please break his kneecaps, Harada, once the balance goes out of the window. It's not like previous Tekken games never had balance issues, but people tend to be far more understanding when there are less issues to tolerate. From the bad PC port, with many people still experiencing frequent stutters, to lackluster anti-cheat, which allows hundreds of so-called people to ruin the online experience. When you factor in everything that happened, does all the negativity towards Tekken seem unwarranted? Some people can obviously take it over the top, but much of criticism towards the game is coming from fans who want to see the game in its best state. Not only for their own sake, but so that it's easier for Tekken to attract and retain new players, which is a key requirement for growth. There are some who disagree and propose that Bandai Namco simply has to do what it does because making games is expensive. That vocal backlash is bad because it will push away new players with negativity, which means less profit for the company and less Tekken for everyone else. And while there is an argument to be made about the etiquette of expressing your grievances, we have to seriously consider what is more likely to push someone away from the game: a bunch of negative and possibly mean reviews, or a game that is greedy, unoptimized, and fairly unbalanced. For what it's worth, it seems that people expressing their opinion is working as intended. When XCC was banned from TGU 2024 after reaching top 8, Tekken community stood by him and forced Bandai Namco to reconsider their decision. He will never be able to go back and play that top 8, but thanks to all the backlash, he still has a chance to pursue his dream of becoming a pro Tekken player. We complained about Heihachi stage being sold separately, and even though Harada was seemingly forced to delete his apology, it still led to Bandai Namco giving players a compensation and promising that the next stage will be free for those who had the Year 1 pass. The takeaway here is that while there are plenty of things to complain about, there are also reasons to have some hope and trust in people who are in charge of Tekken. They are clearly making steps towards trying to satisfy the community, which means that if you have grievances with the game, you should voice them, and there is no need to sugarcoat it, as long as you keep the common decency in mind. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and see you next time.